Welcome to Crowdin Power Up, where we dive into the most exciting and innovative features on the Crowdin platform. Good morning from sunny Dallas. And Dorota, you're traveling Europe nowadays. I think you're in Poland still
Yes.
for the time being, if I'm correct.
Good afternoon from Poland.
Well, good afternoon from Poland. We're here for the second episode of Crowdin Power Up, and we have a really exciting program to show you today. We're going to be talking about MCP. If you're not aware what MCP is, this episode is for you, and it's a term that anybody interested in AI applications and localization should get familiar with, because I suspect we're going to be talking about that particular three-letter word for a long time to come. Dorota, what is Model Context Protocol in a nutshell?
Yes, so everyone talks about it, everyone wants to use it, but it's probably wise to remember it's not always a magic solution to all your pain points. So let's have a look at it. So Model Context Protocol lets you connect to external tools and external data sources so that you can have more contextual information. It can also help you reduce hallucinations. So it's not just some general outputs that a large language model would give you. It gives you access to more context, better quality, which is especially important for translation, because you can, for example, search for extra context in your mobile app strings, in your keys, or in translation memories, in any other live sources.
Yeah, I'm sure that to a lot of people this sounds like RAG, something we've been using for maybe a year and a half already right now, retrieval augmented generation. But there's one main difference, I think, is that with RAG, you can access a set of static documents or documentation that stays in one place, as where with MCP, you can actually do it in a dynamic way and update your LLM with things as they take place. Am I extrapolating that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So MCP lets you connect to dynamic sources to change constantly. We will present MCP in Crowdin. So MCP in Crowdin extends existing context features by enabling AI agents to interact with live resources, for example, code repositories or content in your content management system or other context-rich data. And there are many use cases. For example, the perfect use case will be a mobile app localization. When you have a lot of strings, it could be just one word, such as charge or anything else. And as a translator, you don't know how to translate it because there is no context. So with MCP, you ask AI to go find more context, for example, by looking for the relevant key in the app code.
Yeah. Sounds good. Let's dive right in. Not everything is rosy in the landscape, so to speak. Are there any drawbacks with MCP that we should highlight as well that make it not the right solution for everything, maybe?
Yeah, it's not all roses. There are drawbacks as well. So setting up these MCP integrations requires a lot of effort. It's not plug and play. So AI translation with MCP tends to be much slower. But again, there are some great benefits, such as more context, high quality translation, and it's easier and faster to research your context. And I can give you some real world examples. So there's a GitHub MCP, which, in this case, AI will check the source code for how short strings are used in the mobile app. Or for Figma MCP, AI would check if the string fits inside the button or any other UI element. So there are drawbacks, but there are also great benefits. So you always have to find the right balance.
One of the things we're really aiming to do with this series is have people experiment and guide us a little bit as well as to what the better solutions are and how we can fine-tune things. Why don't we dive right in? I think you have your screen ready, and I'm curious to see your first demo, which I believe is on screenshot as source with in context guidance, right?
Yes, so before we jump into MCP, let's have a quick look at another Crowdin feature that helps to provide more context for translators. It's called In Context app. Let's see how it works. It's just a tool that you can install in your Crowdin platform. Once you enable it, you have to add a little snippet of code to your application. So I will show you a very simple finance app with one very tricky string. So in the settings here, in the settings, I have this very tricky string which says blind mode. It's very ambiguous. I don't know how to translate it if I don't see that description below. So once I see the description that is about hiding errors to enable you focused work, I know how to translate it. I can translate it, for example, as a focus mode. But without it, I have no idea how to translate it. Yeah. So one way to deal with it in Crowdin is to use this in-context app. How it works, as a developer, you add extra JavaScript snippet to your code, and then it has like a pseudo language package. It doesn't live in your at your production stage of the app, but only in the QA or staging instances. But the idea here is that it adds this extra language, this in-context language. And when you click on it, you will be able to take screenshots live from your application and send these screenshots to Crowdin to be able to translate in Crowdin from screenshots. It gives more context to translators, so translators can see the context, and they can also see their changes, so their translations live in the live preview. So in this app, I have several languages. I have that in-context app installed as well. I will hit in context. And now it takes me to Crowdin. And there's this flying widget here. So I hit Crowdin logo. I can see several strings. Now, if I hit on the second icon on the left, it will let me take a screenshot from the screen that I can see here. So I will change the name to settings. I will hit add screenshot. It will upload. It will tag the strings, all the strings that it can see on the screenshot. And now if I go back to my Crowdin project, I will be able to see this screenshot there. Now when I refresh this page, I will see my settings screenshot, there it is. And now when I click on it, I will see both the strings that are visible on the settings in the editor, and I will see the screenshot as well. There's also my tricky blind mode string. Now with the screenshot, I know how to translate it because I see the description below as well. I can go back to any other screenshot in my project and translate from screenshots. I click on any screenshot, and then automatically all the strings visible on the screenshots are in the editor as well. So I could translate my whole application just based on the screenshots. Of course, that would be quite a tough, difficult solution. If my application is very complex, it will be quite overwhelming to add hundreds of screenshots. So of course, there's also an option to add resource files. I will scroll down. So here it is. This is my resource files with all strings. When I open it, I can see all the strings in my editor as well. So you have a choice. You can either translate from screenshots, or you can translate both from the images, your screenshots, or from the files. When I translate from the files, I can see the screenshots as well for more context.
Yeah.
So
and you can click on those screenshots then and open them up.
Yes. So here it is again. That's my settings screen again with the blind mode. So the key benefit of the in-context tool is that I can have a look at the screen to figure out how to translate it. I can understand the application, and then I can create contextually relevant translation. So in the ideal world, all translators would have access to the application before or during localization. We should be able to look at the app, or at least at the screenshot, to be able to translate it correctly. But it's not always possible. Sometimes we don't have any screenshots. Sometimes we have no context at all. That's where this in-context app may come in handy. Now, let's imagine there are no screenshots at all. There's no in-context app either, and there's no one to answer our questions, because if we are not sure how to translate a string or any other phrase or sentence, we can always ask a client for clarification. But sometimes the clients are very slow to reply. Sometimes there's simply no time to wait for the response. This is where MCP may come in handy. So linguists can ask AI to go look for the right context, for example, in the code base. Before we show MCP in action, I have a word of warning. So MCP is still in experimental phase. So users have to guide AI, otherwise it won't provide good results. Implementing MCP is also not smooth because this solution is, well, it's not perfect because the servers are not always reliable. So once you connect your project to MCP, such as here, MCP will look for context. It will suggest you the right translations. However, if you decide to use MCP for every single string, it will consume a lot of tokens. So it will be extremely slow and it will cost you more. So we probably don't want to use it for every single string. Maybe we want to use it only for strings that are very unclear. However, once this technology matures and once it speeds up, it will offer huge potential. For example, AI will be able to go find the right translation for all the strings it's asked to translate, because it can check the whole code base for the right context. And the costs eventually might be lower, so the technology will be more reliable as well. So let's now have a look at this MCP in action. How can I translate with MCP? So I will go back to my project. So this is again the same project, the finance application, but this time I only have resource files. I have no screenshots. I have no context at all. I don't know how to translate that blind mode string, for example. So first, you have to go to AI section. You go to providers, Agentic AI, you hit edit, and then you go to MCP. Now I have MCP here. I will delete it to be able to add a new one to show you how it works. So in Crowdin, you have a choice. You can choose between GitHub or Zapier. At the moment, GitHub is more mature. And Zapier, well, Zapier lets you connect to many different tools online. So any tool that can be accessed with API can be accessed with AI via Zapier. So let's imagine we have a project and there's a project manager that wants to configure MCP. So the manager can go hit GitHub and well, first we have to configure the GitHub. We have to add the MCP server, GitHub MCP server. We'll give it a name. It will be GitHub. And now we need to add tokens. So you will have to provide your GitHub token here. You can find it in your GitHub settings, in developer settings. So I will copy paste it here. And you click add server and yay, configuration was saved successfully. We have our MCP server added to the project. You have to turn it on. And now, as you can see, when I added MCP, it's not just one tool, it's 81 tools. So that's quite a lot. Yes, so that's quite a lot for AI to choose from. And you have to explain, you have to tell AI what to do with these tools. If you don't explain what you want to achieve with all these tools, with all those APIs, you might end up in a total chaos. So we don't want any chaos. Yeah. We don't want slow responses or useless results. We use MCP to have useful results. We have to make sure we tell AI exactly what to do with all our extra resources that we have added as MCP. We want to act wisely. That's why we are going to the rules tab on the left side. And we will add an extra rule for our project to tell AI how to behave. So you can add a new user rule here. You can call it GitHub use, for example. And now I have prepared my rule earlier, so I will just copy paste it here to make it faster. Now, this rule has to be very accurate. So what I'm doing here, I have provided also the name of my GitHub repository, and I'm explaining step by step what the AI should do with my extra resources. So I wanted to go check in my GitHub content and find the relevant keys. So wherever there is a string that can have multiple translations, I want AI to access my GitHub project and find relevant keys that can help me find more context. So I have described it here step by step what should be done. So there's no one way. There's no way to provide universal instructions here. This rule will be different depending on your project. So the key thing to remember here is, well, you have to be very precise. You have to probably go through several trials and errors before you figure out the right rule for you. This rule will depend on your GitHub project or any other project that you want to use for your MCP. So once you figure out what's the perfect rule, you add it here, you save it, and now you can go back to the project and you can see it in action. So I will go back to my strings. I will translate.
Maybe interject 2 seconds. I think it would be a good idea for us to give an example of that rule in the comments of our YouTube video, so people that are watching this should be able to see your example in the comments by the time that we make this publicly available.
Yes, of course, yes. So I will go find my tricky string, the blind mode. Here it is. I will translate into Polish, which is my native language. So I'm opening here the Agentic AI chat. We have talked about it in the first episode, and I'm pasting here the prompt. So this prompt again has to be very precise. So I want AI to go find the best translation for the blind mode and then provide an explanation why it has chosen to translate it in this way. Now, this process may take a while, so while you're waiting, you can go to another chat. You can open a new chat with that little plus icon, or you simply click Ctrl-Alt-N. You create a new chat where you can maybe try to translate some other string, right? So you can work on multiple chats at the same time. So back to my original chat, AI is thinking. Maybe it will find the right, there it is. We have the MCP, it's calling MCP tool. I will click in run, and then we have some explanation. So I can see that AI has found some context in my GitHub project. So now let's see what it's telling me. So I can see it found the right context. So it doesn't provide me with the literal translation, which would be, I know, the mode for the visually impaired users. But it actually found that the right translation is tryb skupienia, so that's a focus mode. So it actually went ahead and found the right context for me. Now, this is not something obvious. It's not well, the string is very ambiguous, as I've mentioned. So this translation, focus mode, is not an obvious choice. So I can see that MCP really did it work very well. And again, if you are bored waiting for the results, you can always hit on that plus icon and talk to AI in another chat. Maybe solve some other.
What I'm thinking of immediately too, just from practical project management experience in the localization industry, in this particular case where you're confronted with a text string that doesn't have an obvious solution in a different language, typically you would do exactly what you explained in the beginning here. You'd call your customer and have a conversation about it. But I've found in my experience of over 20 years in the localization industry that a lot of times clients won't have maybe the right suggestion on how to solve this either.
Yes.
And what's so neat with this particular solution is that you get actually a window into the reasoning of the model. And even if it comes up with a solution that you don't 100% agree with, you might give your client some options. That's probably the way that I've mostly solved this kind of issue with customers as well. When you're confronted with this type of ambiguous thing, you give the customers 3 different or 4 different choices and let them figure out what they like best. And in this particular case, not only do you have a choice, but you can also document very clearly what the reasoning behind this choice is, and that's probably even more useful for your end client who might not speak fluent Polish like Dorota and might have need some kind of justification internally in order to switch it to focus mode. So this is really, really helpful, I think, in that regard. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, plus clients sometimes don't know the answer either. And in most cases, we wouldn't even call the client, not to disturb them. We would send an email and then wait like several days for the answer. And then they come back to us and they say, well, they don't know. They need to ask maybe a developer or, I don't know, someone else.
That's probably the most common. That's probably the most common reaction I get in this kind of scenario, that the client really hires us to figure this kind of stuff out. They don't want to be dealing with that problem necessarily. And so by giving more background, I think we can really help them service this model very correctly. All right.
Yes. And I could also go ahead and find maybe context manually in the keys, right? But it would take me forever. If the app is super big, I would maybe spend several hours searching for the right context. So with MCP, I have quick access to the right context if it's configured correctly.
Yeah.
So yes, I just want to mention that with MCP, AI was able to figure out what's the best solution here. It avoided the literal translation. It avoided any other translation that wouldn't be correct here. Again, have a look at our original app to verify if that's a correct translation. We can see that yes, blind mode can be translated as focused work because this was the description of our setting here. So the MCP helped me find the right translation.
All right. Do you have anything else to show in this particular segment? Or I think we have some more productivity enhancements that we're going to be showcasing this morning. Multi-chat and voice interaction vision. What's that all about, Dorota?
Well, it's what I've mentioned. You can always open a new chat. When you are waiting for the results here for the AI to answer, you can go hit that plus icon on the right-hand side and open a new chat and maybe work on several strings at the same time, because it might take a while for MCP, for AI to find the right context for you. So working on several windows, several chats may help you be more productive. One more thing I want to mention, well, when you work with MCP, you really have to be very careful to configure your rule in a very accurate way. So your rule, the one that we've provided at the very beginning, has to be very accurate. It has to be customized to your project. There's not one general rule. You have to always customize it to your project. And but once you do it, you will see this AI magic in action. So once you configure it correctly, you will see the MCP working wonders.
In closing this episode, we should quickly highlight our Language Wizards initiative, Dorota. We are offering a select group of linguists the possibility to come experiment with us a little bit in more detail and review the new features in Crowdin in real life experiments with us, so to speak. It's an exciting initiative that we're working on. We have recruited the first couple of people. We'd like to add a couple more. What do they have to do in order to become part of our group, Dorota?
You can send us a message. You can comment below this video on LinkedIn, and we will send you a form. Once you fill it in, and if we see you are the right fit, we'll invite you to work with us to experiment on the new features to make it. Yeah.
One of the benefits that we have with becoming part of our Language Wizards group is that you're going to get access to Crowdin in a complimentary way, and we'll even give you some tokens to play around with the AI, so it doesn't cost you any money. And in return, we ask that you meet with us once a month to give some further feedback on the new developments and functionalities in Crowdin. So it's exciting, I think, for anybody who wants to stay on top of the latest developments in agile localization and learn more about how to work with large language models in a very practical way in on the platform. So please send us a message and ask to join the group, and we'll send you a quick application, and we'll be on our way. Good. Thank you so very much, Dorota, for yet another super Power Up presentation this morning. We look forward to talking again with you next month and finding out what the latest developments are on the Crowdin platform. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. See you next time.